In this video, I'm going to help you understand how you see time. Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I do all sorts of planner and stationery stuff here on the YouTubes, and today we're going to talk about whether or not you should be weekly, daily, or monthly planning. Basically, weekly, daily, and monthly planning has a lot to do with how you see your life, how you see time, how you see cycles, and we're going to talk about the different ones in each of those areas right now. Figuring this out is one of those things that really helped all methods of planning sort of click into place in my brain, because once you figure out how you see time and how you see cycles, you can better plan things like your habits, what kind of planners you'll buy. You can better notice what spreads you absolutely need or can do without in a planner that you're thinking about buying or creating. It also helps you know how to construct deadlines that are going to be realistic to you and realistic to what you're working on. Okay, so let's talk about how you can tell if you're a monthly, weekly, or daily planner. And I'm using these categories knowing that there are other things like quarterly planning out there or other different methods of breaking down, obviously yearly planning exists. So there's lots of different methods of ways to break down your view of your time. But in general, I find that the way planners are structured on the market and the way that we typically structure our time in a more manageable sense is by month, week, and day. And so we're trying to figure out here what you gravitate towards the most. So the first thing we're going to look at is your previous planner and your current planner. We're going to take a look at what worked and what has not worked, right? So I would say these are the planners I've been in most often in the past year. This is my Hobonichi Cousin, which is a monthly, weekly, and daily planner. This is the Sterling Ink Common Planner, which is a monthly and weekly planner with memo pages in the back. And then this is the Hobonichi Weeks, which is a weekly planner primarily. It has a tiny, tiny monthly section, but I wouldn't really consider it a good monthly planner. But it also does have memo pages in the back. So the first thing I want to look at is basically the planner that I was in almost all of last year, which was the Hobonichi Weeks. So if we open up my Hobonichi Weeks, this is actually the current year's Hobonichi Weeks. But I bought two Hobonichi Weeks this year because when I looked at last year's planner, I realized that this sort of like weekly overview, starting my planning by coming to a blank weekly, was what made me feel the most centered and the most calm. So I tend to plan and view my life based on what's coming up for next week. I find myself not really doing a good job of opening up to a new month and being able to visualize, okay, this is what I've got going on, this is what I need to do. Opening up to new months is fine, and it helps me see, oh yeah, my grandma's birthday is on a Monday this year, or Mother's Day is on the 14th this year, or whatever, just like noting important dates and noting important times. But I gravitate towards the weekly layout when I'm actually planning my time. That means every week I have a sort of routine. So this layout really, really works for me. And so I know I'm a weekly planner because this is also true when I move into a different kind of weekly planner. So I love the Hobonichi Weeks, as we know, but I've also been in the Common Planner almost all of 2023 so far. I've made a few videos about this by now on my channel, but basically the Common Planner, the way that it's set up is that it has your vertical weeklies here, which again, very different format than the horizontal weekly in the Hobonichi Weeks. I love a horizontal weekly layout, but the sort of vertical weekly layout of the Sterling Ink Common Planner is also one variant of a weekly layout. But I know that I prefer a weekly layout because when I'm coming into my Common Planner or when I'm coming into my Hobonichi Weeks, no matter what type of planner I'm in, this is the view that's most often open on my desk. This is what I like to see when people ask me, oh, do you want to do this thing on Friday? I'm not in like a daily section flipping to that day, right, to see what I've got going on. I'm not in the monthly section looking at that month. I'm in the weekly section and I'm going to look at Friday and I'm going to say, oh, Friday at this time is free, but I have XYZ to do. Let's go to a current week so I can better demonstrate this. So this is the current week that I'm on. So if somebody was like, Friday night, I want to go to a movie, I would look at my planner and I'd be like, okay, Friday night I'm free. I don't have anything written down there, but I have all these tasks to do still. I still have to book a tax appointment and handle my mail, and I got to go to the gym at some point that day. So I'm actually not free at that time. And I know that because I'm looking at my weekly section. So you're asking yourself what has worked, what hasn't worked in the past, what do you most often like to see, and how do you best visualize? Another way I know that this is what I gravitate towards is because at the end of a week, I find myself really needing to prep for the following week. I don't do this on a monthly or daily basis. When I get to a Sunday, I'm like, okay, it's time to plan the next week fully out. When I get to the end of a day, so for example, like the daily planner in the Hobonichi Cousin, if you get to the end of a day and you're like, okay, it's time to plan my next day, you might be a daily planner or someone who's more comfortable with enough space every single day to plan out every single day. Alternatively, if you get to the end of a month and you're like, hey, it's the end of July, I now need to plan for all of August, and then you find yourself like migrating things over from this into your weekly section, but this is where you do most of your planning, you might be a monthly planner. So think really hard about the ways in which you've used planners in the past in order to block out your life, plan the activities that you're going to do, and then also think about what makes you feel most comfortable and most stable. So like I said, I gravitate towards a weekly layout. I prefer having my weekly open. I actually don't even keep my task lists on my weekly page. Normally I have like a small weekly task list, but I keep my task lists in the sort of blank notebook section of the Common Planner. But I have this open most of the time because what I'm thinking about is my weekly schedule and my full week at any given time. So think about what you gravitate towards, and also think about when you need a fresh start feeling, what do you do? When I need a fresh start feeling, more than likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a sample week in my life. I'm going to turn to a blank week, or I'm going to open in a planner that I'm not using anymore. Like I'm not really using the Hobonichi Cousin anymore, but I have this planner and it has all of these sort of blank weeks scattered throughout it because I didn't finish this planner. So I'm usually going to take an old weekly planner that I didn't finish, or some kind of, turn to a blank spread in my current weekly planner, and I'm going to plot out everything I need to get done of a week and time block it out in sort of like a sample weekly way. Actually, I just passed a page where I did this. Yeah, so this was a good example of a time that I did this last year when I just needed to see when I had free spaces and when I was going to be editing YouTube and when we were going to be cooking. So actually I did like 2 different drafts of this, depending on what I like, how I was envisioning my life. When I need a fresh start feeling, I am looking at my weeks. I am looking at how can I change up my weekly schedule to better accomplish the things I need to accomplish, to better hit my routines, to better make my goals happen. There are totally people who come into their monthly section and say, okay, to better handle my goals, to better understand my process, to feel fresh and more relaxed, they come to their monthly section. I tried doing this once in the blank monthly that you get at the end of the Common Planner, the sort of forward-looking January 2024 page. I came in here and I tried to plan out based on when I was working from home, when I was going to be in the office, if I wanted to go out. I tried to plan some of this in, but this really didn't give me the kind of clarity that opening to a blank week and plotting out my week gave me. This sort of gave me like, okay, this is too much data for my brain to handle. I can't really see what's going on, and I can't really get a picture of what my days look like when I'm looking at a monthly view. It's very helpful to look at a monthly view and say, oh, it looks like I have a camping trip coming up at the end of this month. When do I have to start packing? Probably the weekend before. Or I have my grandma's birthday this weekend. When should I start shopping for a gift? Probably a few days before, stuff like that. It's very helpful to come into a monthly planner for me and do that. But I'm not able to look at a monthly schedule and see that as something as attainable, because I just don't think in a monthly context. I think in a weekly context. If somebody asks me to do something, my next available time to do it is probably going to be next week because I've already planned out my week. So I hope that's making sense. There's definitely a version of this where you do that on a daily basis. I've totally seen people, and sometimes I've been this person where I get to the end of the day and I'm like, time to plan for the next day, right? Time to
use the sections on my daily planner and create the schedule and the to-do list of the things that I need to get done for tomorrow. And that is how those people get their fresh start feeling, is they look at tomorrow's day and they write out their 3 priorities, or they write out their timeline, or they write out their to-do list the night before. So if you often find yourself doing that sort of thing, you might be a daily planner. Of course, there are different layouts for all these different types of planners. Monthly layouts, you're not really going to find many different like unique monthly layouts. It's probably going to be like a calendar like it has in almost every planner. And I think this is just because it enables you to see like a week at a time. It's very effective for that. However, there are totally people who like to do like a month at a glance, in sort of like a line. So for example, like at the beginning of the Hobonichi planners, they have this sort of layout, which is considered a year at a glance. So this would be great if you need yearly planning. Personally, I find this to be a little bit overwhelming. I'm much more inclined to yearly plan in different ways. If you need sort of like a monthly log view, very common in bullet journals, in the bullet journaling method, Ryder Carroll talks about setting up your months on a blank page. So if I was, ignoring this, and I wanted to set up like a monthly log, what I would do is I would flip to a blank page in a planner. So any planner that I had or that I was using at that moment, or any blank notebook if I was using a blank notebook. And I would open to a blank page and I would write the days of the month, in one column and the weekdays in another column. So I might do it like this. This would be like a traditional kind of monthly log where you can see I have the days of the month on the one side and then the weekdays on the other. And then I've divvied it up per week, which helps to sort of break up the continuous line. You could also put this in like the middle of the page, sort of like down the middle here. I've seen lots of people do like personal and work, and then just grab lines out, sort of write things. This is what I'm doing for work. This is what I'm doing for personal. So this is another monthly layout if you are interested in doing this type of thing. If you find yourself like when you crave that fresh start feeling, or you crave that feeling of like having your shit together, and you open up a blank notebook and this is what you draw, you might be a monthly planner. And you should think about that when you're buying planners, which sort of leads me to the next step of this, which is like, how do you pick your planners based on what you know about yourself if you're a monthly, daily, or weekly planner? So if you're a monthly planner, you might want to look for planners based on what their monthly sections look like. So this sort of vertical monthly, or maybe a more complex like yearly selection, which I just showed you in the Hobonichi Cousin, maybe a more thorough sort of like yearly section with vertical monthlies down the side, combined with some kind of traditional calendar monthly. Maybe this is your sweet spot and this is what helps you track your life. Look for planners with these kinds of layouts in them that work with your brain, because your brain is a monthly brain, right? Your brain is the kind of brain that needs to be seeing days 1 through 30, 1 through 31, all in a row, all in one collection. And that's how you're going to be able to say, okay, this Sunday I do have time for that convention, and this week I want to rest because I want to be prepared for the following week, which is going to be really busy at work. Whatever. However you're planning. This week I want to rest. This week I want to be really productive at work. Whatever it is that you need, make sure your planner has those monthly layouts, or has space for you to draw them in if you are interested in doing that. What's also great as a monthly planner are blank pages in the back. Now, I don't have like a dedicated actual monthly planner because, like I've said in this video, I don't really think about my time in that way. So having a planner without any weekly sections sounds like pure hell. Like I would not be able to get anything done. So I don't actually own any of these planners, but they do make planners that are very similar in like size and capacity as some of my favorite weekly planners. So the Sterling Ink Common Planner, for example, has a monthly section, and then at the back she has all of these undated pages that are just blank pages. So if I were a monthly planner, what I would be looking for is a planner with a monthly section that I liked, maybe a couple variants of a monthly section. So maybe this, and then maybe also in Sterling Ink's planner, she has a quarterly section where you plan out your stuff quarterly. So some variation on the monthly section, and then also enough pages in the back that are blank where you could take notes or do task lists or project plan, or make trackers or whatever you need to support your monthly planning. I know Hobonichi has a day-free planner. I'll put a little clip of it up on the screen. Basically, their day-free planner is a lot like their Hobonichi cousin, but it just doesn't have the weeklies. So you can get it in an A5 size, or you can get it in the smaller A6 size. And it has just the monthly sections, and then instead of having daily pages in the back like the Hobonichi cousin, these are just blank pages. So Hobonichi does have an option. Leuchtturm also has an option that has just monthly planners, and Leuchtturm also, I think Leuchtturm and Moleskine also offer monthly planners in 16th and 18 month variants. I'm not positive, don't quote me on that, but you can look to those brands if you're just looking for something with a monthly calendar and blank pages in the back as well. Now, if you are a weekly planner like me, you want planners with a solid weekly section, okay? You want planners that have the most care and attention paid to the part of the planner that you're going to be in the most often, so the weekly section. So these two are two different versions, right? There's also this type of weekly planner where it's horizontal all the way across the page. This is probably my least favorite type of weekly planner, but if it works for you, it works for you. This can be super helpful if you don't need a lot of extra writing space or you don't need any time tracking. But for me, I need a lot of extra writing space and I need a lot of time tracking. So what I gravitate towards are the horizontal with memo page. So I have an opportunity to write all of my appointments and any date specific tasks here, and then a large memo section so I can write notes, keep track of things that come up during the week, and make any sort of like revisions or reviews that I need to make on this side of the page. An example of how I've used that, if you'd like to see, do I have a good example? Yeah, this is a good example. Well, that's not a good example. Let's go to work. Yeah, so an example of how I use this in my work planner is like I would track memories here sometimes. I would do notes. These are like small things that I need to do, like I needed to email somebody. These are like breakdowns of my like calories in certain meals that I was preparing. And then tasks and events and stuff like that. So I was, basically using the memo page for whatever when I was in this planner. And that was good for me because I needed a lot of like blank and empty space to write around when I didn't have like a scheduled weekly. Alternatively, there is the vertical weekly, and there's lots of different variants on the vertical weekly. I think probably most of us are going to need some sort of weekly planner. So I identify as like a weekly planner, but you can also be a quote unquote like weekly planner, meaning you just need a weekly in your planner in some capacity. But if this is where you spend the most of your time, what you really want to do is make sure that the creator of the weekly planner and like the design of the weekly planner is exactly what you need, right? So sometimes I'll look at weekly planners and the design is just so ugly. It's just not cute, or it has like big, thick lines that I don't really like. It has something that is disruptive to me that doesn't enable me to quickly scan in terms of design, but this definitely does allow me to sort of take this as freeform and play around with it and make it my own, but it's also really easy and quick to scan. Like I can clearly see what days are what, but the text and the depth of the lines or the darkness of the lines is not too invasive, so that when I put my stuff on top of it, I can still tell that these are the distinct days, but it's not so invasive that it covers up what I'm actually putting in the planner, if that makes sense. So that's just a personal thing of mine. When I'm looking at a vertical weekly, I want that sort of flexibility. But also, as I said, with my horizontal weeks, I really need a place to write notes and tasks on a sidebar of some kind. This is obviously a lot less space than it's in the Hobonichi weeks, which is totally fine. I make it work for me especially because I already have all these extra pages in the back. So I'm making it work, but I do need somewhere as I'm in the middle of my week to jot down an idea or something that I forgot that I need to handle this week if it comes up. So those are important things for me when I'm looking at a weekly planner, which is why I don't necessarily like this style of weekly planning, but this style of weekly planning works really, really well for some people. So it's all depends on what you need. But that's just a tip overall. If you are trying to plan or buy a planner based on a certain section because you know you will need that section, you really want to make sure it has exactly what you need and has something that looks good. Like I can sacrifice what my monthly looks like because I don't really care about my monthly section. So this could be on one page, it could be super small, it doesn't have to be anything special because I don't really use my monthlies, but I use my weeklies, so the weeklies have to be perfect. And that's one of the things that I did when I was looking into buying Sterling Inc.'s Common Planner was I watched all of her videos, all of her flip throughs, all of her tutorials, all of her everything before I decided to buy her planner, because what she did with her planner was she paid so much attention to this weekly section, making sure everything fit, everything was just so, everything worked for people who had come from planners like the Hobonichi Cousin, who wanted slightly different layouts. So she really put so much thought into this weekly section, which is why I think this planner shines as a weekly planner. And it's the same thing with the Hobonichi Weeks. This definitely shines as a weekly planner because a lot of thought and care was put into the way the weekly section is designed, down to, the opportunities to add more columns over here, the guiding lines, the sort of like darkened line over here in case you need a little bit more space, the grid of this page versus the non-grid of this page. It's all designed so cleanly and so well so that when you jump into this planner, like there's a reason it's a favorite among weekly planners, because when you jump in, you can just get going right away and it's flexible enough to be able to add or change or update what you need. So anyways, so pay attention when you're purchasing planners, like what actually you need and how much care and attention is put towards that section in your planner that you're thinking about buying. And lastly, if you are a daily planner, I would be definitely looking at daily planners that have the same sort of attention to detail given to the daily pages that really fit your needs and really fit what you want out of a planner. Obviously, the Hobonichi Cousin is such a classic all-around planner. It gives you the opportunity to be flexible with daily pages, weekly pages, and monthly pages if you are interested in that sort of thing. But I think one of the ways it really, really shines is the daily pages, because again, these daily pages are so flexible. They have an opportunity for time blocking over here if you'd like to write out your schedule. They obviously have a time specific vertical weekly section, but if you are not interested in using the weeklies, you can have a schedule over here as well. There's a small section up here for any like highlights or important to-dos. It even comes with its own little checkbox. And then the rest of the page is sort of free form. So a lot of people that I see will sort of cut off this bottom section, use this bottom section for journaling, use this section for notes, time blocking, priority tasks, something like that. I know a lot of us will also use this column for to-do lists and cut it down the vertical line here, and then this is for journaling or for commonplacing or for whatever. But the important part is that when you're looking for a daily planner, you're looking for something that's going to enable you to get that fresh start feeling on a daily page. You can get quite specific if you want. There are a lot of variations of daily planners. I would say most of them come with some sort of time blocking element and some sort of priorities element. Besides that, there's some that come with journaling editions where you can like have a quick journal session at the end of the day, answer a prompt that's on every page. There's some where you rate your days or have a little section where you write about what you worked on. Another very common version of a daily planner is something like the Full Focus Planner, where you have your day on one spread. So this is like a 3-month planner and you can buy a new one every 3 months. And the Full Focus Planner comes with its own sort of rituals and goal setting systems, but you can really find a lot of planners that are like this. And you can see it's broken up into sections. A daily big 3. If you got, it has a section for if you checked off your morning ritual, your startup and shutdown rituals, things like that. It has its own key here at the bottom, and it has a time blocking section if you want to write your schedule out, and then it just has a blank page of notes. So this has a lot going on, definitely enough space to be flexible, but this has like everything sort of laid out for how you're supposed to use this section, from time blocking to daily big 3 to other tasks. So if you're looking for something more specific, if you find yourself being a daily planner and you're like, I really need stuff to be pre-printed to tell me how to use my planner every day, because that's what helps get rid of my thought process and just helps me focus on planning, something like this might be better for you than something more free-form such as the Hobonichi Cousin. But a daily planner you can also just use. Often people just use like blank notebooks. Certain notebooks are made to have 365 blank pages in the back so that you can do a day per page if that is what floats your boat. But there are otherwise blank pages. So you can get quite specific, be as flexible or as pre-printed, pre-defined as you want. Either way, a daily planner, you're probably the type of person who needs to look at your day holistically and prefers like every morning having a fresh start, or every evening the night before creating that fresh start for yourself. Okay, so I hope that you got a lot of stuff out of this video. This is something I think about actually so much because I really do believe that the type of planners that we are using are very indicative of how we see time and how we like to participate in our lives, how we like to schedule our days and our events and our time with friends and family and our work life and our projects. So give it a thought, how you think about time, how you look at your planners, And if you find yourself that I'm definitely a monthly planner, I'm definitely a weekly planner, I'm definitely a daily planner, let me know which one down in the description box below, because I'd be super curious to know. Of course, lots of us are going to be combinations. Like I would say I am pretty much solidly a weekly planner. If I didn't have a daily section, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. If I didn't have a monthly section, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. Obviously, I like dipping into those sections occasionally, but I don't absolutely need them. But maybe you're the type of person who absolutely needs a monthly section and a daily section. Maybe that's how you see time and how you plan bigger picture and smaller scale. So let me know down in the comments what combination you are. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I really think this is an important thing that not a lot of people consider when they want to buy planners, especially because they're like trendy planners out there that like people just like aesthetically without thinking about if they're going to work for them. So anyways, I hope this helped. Let me know down in the comments. I love you guys so much. I really, really appreciate you. And if you want to keep hanging out, there's a video somewhere on the screen of more content from me. And also you can follow me over at Rachel in Theory on Instagram. I'll see you guys there. Talk to you in the next one. Bye.